the serene hills of Sicily, in a quiet town called Calatafimi, a child was born on June 21, 2001. His name was Manuel Fodera. At first glance, his early years seemed no different from any other child's. His parents were humble, hardworking, people who filled their home with warmth, laughter, and the simple joys of everyday life. Their household resonated with love, faith, and peace. Manuel grew up surrounded by this gentle care. He played, laughed, and ran through the streets of his village like any child. Yet beneath this ordinary childhood lay a destiny that would touch countless hearts. A destiny that began to reveal itself in ways that no one could have predicted. By the summer of 2005, Manuel had just turned 4. This should have been a time of carefree games, of school lessons, and the endless curiosity of youth. Instead, a cruel shadow fell over his life. He began to suffer from intense, unexplained pain. Alarmed, his parents rushed him to Palermo, where doctors delivered the news no parent wishes to hear. Manuel had a severe form of cancer. In an instant, the ordinary rhythm of family life shattered, replaced by hospitals, treatments, and the heavy weight of fear. The next 5 years of Manuel's life were marked by repeated hospital visits, painful procedures, and chemotherapy sessions that drained his small body. The physical suffering was immense, yet something miraculous began to unfold within him. Sister Prisca, a Franciscan nun who often cared for Manuel, was among the first to notice the change. Before each treatment, Manuel insisted on visiting the hospital chapel. It wasn't a mere ritual, it was a true friendship. In the quiet presence of the tabernacle, he felt close to Jesus. He spoke to him, listened in silence, and confided his fears and hopes. For Manuel, Jesus was not a distant figure but a constant companion. His parents observed the same transformation. Despite his young age, Manuel carried himself with a peace far beyond his years. When pain shook him, he would ask his family to pray the rosary together. "The Hail Marys make me strong," he said, and indeed, the prayers seemed to give him courage and comfort. Slowly, it became clear that his suffering was not empty. It was being transformed into something greater, into light. As the illness progressed, Manuel's devotion to the Virgin Mary deepened. To him, she was alive, present, and tender. When pain became unbearable, he would call his family near and insist, "Pray the rosary with me." In those moments, he believed Mary sat beside him, comforting him in ways medicine could not. One evening, this deep connection revealed itself in a remarkable way. It was the feast day of the village's patron saint, with a procession planned. Exhausted from treatment, Manuel looked at his mother and said, "Our Lady told me I am her joy, and she will give me fireworks tonight." His mother, skeptical, tried to calm him. No fireworks had been arranged. Yet later that night, colorful explosions lit up the Sicilian sky. Manuel turned to his mother, eyes shining, and whispered, "See, she promised me." That moment became etched in their hearts forever, not for the fireworks, but because it revealed a profound truth. For Manuel, Mary was real, present, and loving. By age 6, Manuel's spiritual maturity astonished everyone. Despite his frail body, he longed to receive Jesus in the Eucharist. Each time the chaplain brought communion, it was only for his mother. While Manuel watched with longing, most children his age were just learning their prayers. Yet Manuel's soul yearned for the sacred encounter. After persistent requests, his parents sought permission from the Bishop of Trapani, recognizing the depth of Manuel's faith. The bishop approved. On October 13, 2007, the day of his first Holy Communion, tragedy struck. Manuel woke screaming in pain. His leg hurt so severely he could not walk. Yet, by noon, the pain miraculously vanished. "Our Lady has healed me," he said, and he walked to the chapel in his finest clothes. Surrounded by family and priests, Manuel finally received Jesus in the Eucharist. From that day forward, his words carried extraordinary wisdom. He explained why he longed so much for communion: "Because I want Jesus to live in my heart." He also shared a message he said came from Jesus. After receiving communion, spend at least 5 minutes in silence to speak to Jesus in your heart, in the mouth of a child. These words became a profound reminder that the Eucharist is not just a ritual, it is a living encounter, a gift of love. Manuel's faith only grew stronger with time. He began calling the Eucharist the balm of grace, describing how receiving Jesus filled him with strength, joy, and courage. Those who met him, nurses, priests, even strangers, felt touched by the divine presence he radiated. He believed his suffering had a purpose. He was to be a warrior of light, offering his pain for the salvation of souls. By the summer of 2009, Manuel's illness had reached its final stage, yet his spirit remained luminous. He gave his mother instructions for his final day. He wanted to be dressed in his first communion suit, with his hand on an open Bible at Jeremiah 17:14. Heal me, Lord, that I may be healed. Save me that I may be saved, for you are my praise. On July 20th, 2009, a priest celebrated Mass in his room, and Manuel received communion one last time. Holding his rosary tightly, he whispered, "I have finished." At just 8 years old, Manuel Fodera, child of Sicily, passed into eternal life, but his story did not end there. Those who knew him speak of Manuel as a living witness. Holiness is not reserved for the old or strong. Even a child, wholly open to Jesus, can shine as a beacon of light. His life, though brief, burned brightly, a candle illuminating the darkness. And as we remember his final words, "I have finished," we are reminded that death is not the end, but the doorway into eternal life. Manuel's legacy calls us to trust, to love, and to carry light into the world, just as he did. Even now, years after his passing, Manuel's story continues to inspire people across the world. Videos, articles, and personal testimonies describe a boy who carried suffering with courage, who found joy in prayer, and whose faith transformed pain into light. It's a story that reminds us that holiness is not measured by age or strength, but by the love we carry in our hearts. Imagine a small child, barely 8, facing pain that would crush adults, and yet, instead of fear or despair, he radiates serenity. He laughs, he prays, he loves, he hopes. He teaches us that courage is not the absence of suffering, but the presence of faith. Every hospital corridor he walked, every needle, every sleepless night became a path where grace could bloom. His suffering was not meaningless, it became a bridge between heaven and earth. Manuel's life challenges us. In a world often obsessed with power, success, and recognition, this little boy reminds us that true strength is silent, humble, and often invisible. It's in the whispered prayers of a child, in the quiet acceptance of trials, in the unwavering trust that even in pain, God is near. And there's a deeper call hidden in his story. Manuel called himself a warrior of light, not for fame, not for applause, but to shine into the darkness of others' hearts. His mission did not end with his death. Every time someone prays the rosary with devotion, every time someone approaches the Eucharist with love, every time someone offers their suffering for others, Manuel's light continues to spread. Perhaps the most astonishing part of his story is how ordinary it all seemed at first. A boy, a family, a small Sicilian town. Yet within that simplicity lay the extraordinary. Manuel's life reminds us that God often works in quiet, unassuming ways. It's not always in grand gestures or headlines, but in small, faithful hearts willing to surrender completely. Today, if we look around, we see darkness, struggles, and despair. Manuel's story calls us to remember that even a single small light can pierce the deepest night. He did not have the power to change the world in the eyes of society. He did not have riches, titles, or influence. But he had something far greater, a heart fully given to Jesus, a life fully surrendered to love. And that is a power no illness, no obstacle, no tragedy can ever diminish. As you listen to his story, let it move you. Let it inspire you to approach life with a little more faith, a little more patience, a little more courage. Let it remind you that holiness is attainable not in distant heavens, not in impossible feats, but in the simple, sincere acts of love and devotion each day. Manuel's final words, "I have finished," were not words of defeat, but words of triumph. They remind us that life, though fleeting, can be eternal when lived in love. So, what can we take from Manuel Fodera's journey? That suffering, when united with faith, can become grace, that even the smallest hearts can carry enormous light. That friendship with Jesus, even in silence, can bring unimaginable strength. And that the call to be a warrior of light is not reserved for saints or heroes. It is a call for each of us. Let Manuel's story challenge us. Let it inspire us. Let it remind us that the finish line in this life is not the end, but the beginning of eternity. And above all, let it encourage us to carry our light bravely, faithfully, and lovingly into the world. Because if a child of 8 can shine so brightly, imagine what we can do with a heart fully surrendered to love.